Last week I did a video about this Rock Island 10mm 2011 double stack 1911, and I mean, you guys know that I had to compare it to my Springfield Prodigy 9mm double stack. So that's what we're doing today. Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. I think I've got a really fun video for you guys today. We've got double stack 1911s in 9mm and 10mm. These guns are both really fun. I love 1911s. I really love 2011s. I mean, God, is there really anything better? I'm not sure. Which one do you think comes out ahead? Let me know down in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed, and let's get started. You want to talk about stopping power of the 10mm? This is what it just did to my target. Bummer. Looks like I need a new carriage bolt. Last week I did a review video of this, the Rock Island TAC Ultra high capacity 10mm 1911 double stack, 16+1 capacity of 10mm. I think that's pretty awesome. That's like everything you want. But you guys also know, if you've been following the channel for a while, my favorite pistol that I own is my Springfield Prodigy double stack 9mm 1911. This one actually has a 20+1 capacity, but it's 9mm, not 10mm. And I've gotten a lot of comments from people when I did videos about this gun. Let me know when it comes out in 10mm. Well, this is not the same gun, but it's the same theory. It's the same style of gun. And so I thought that a review video made a lot of sense here. As many of you know, Springfield Prodigy is the favorite pistol that I own. And it's a double stack 1911 as well. So that's why we're comparing the two today. 9mm versus 10mm. So let's start with the features, and we'll start with the one that I've owned for a while now. This is my Springfield Prodigy. It's a 4¼ inch, so that is a commander size 1911, 4¼ inch barrel, chambered 9mm. Comes with 17 and 20 round magazines, but you can also get 26 round magazines for it. This thing has been 100% reliable for me. I've put almost 2,000 rounds through it by now. The first 1,000 rounds before I did any work to it whatsoever, except for putting on the optic and light. And then I've put the next almost another 1,000 to it since sending it off to Skip's Guns to get all new EGW internals, replace all the metal injection molded internal parts in it. It's got an Atlas medium flat face trigger, an 8-pound recoil spring, a light and main spring, recoil buffer, and this thing is a sweet shooter. I can shoot this better than any of my other pistols, and I absolutely love it. Now when it comes to features, it's pretty much got all the features that you want. It's a 1911. Well, it's basically a 2011, where you've got the three parts, where you've got the slide and barrel, the frame, and then a polymer grip, kind of like a staccato. Same theory. But more affordable than a staccato, although with all the work I put into this, about the same price. Anyway, this thing, it might not be a perfectly fair comparison because with the work I've gotten done from Skip's Guns, it now has a 2.4 pound trigger, and I mean, God, it just feels smooth. It feels exactly like a 2011 should feel. But it's got really good front and rear slide serrations. It's got a rail for your light. It has an optics cut with the agency optic system. So I got a plate for an RMR cut, which works with the Holosun C series. There's a 407C mounted to it. It's got the fiber optic front sight with the blacked out rear with the U-notch. Although honestly, at this point, I just use the red dot, which to me, one of the best features about the thing. It's got a fantastic trigger in it now, but it already had a pretty good trigger in it that broke at about 4 pounds before I got this work done. Now it breaks at about 2.4 pounds and crisp as can be. It's got a nice black Cerakote finish on it. Looks great, feels great, shoots great. It's got a crown barrel. It's my favorite pistol that I own. Well, then we've got the Rock Island TAC Ultra. And it's got most of those same features minus the optics cut. It actually has a 5-slot Picatinny rail for lights, lasers, whatever you want. It's got a nice big magwell for speedy reloads, 16+1 capacity of 10mm auto, which that is definitely a feature. 10mm is a more powerful round than 9mm. But is power everything? Hopefully we'll get to that later in this video. Well, I'm sure we will. This one has a nice 1911 trigger as well, although it's a lot heavier. I've measured both these triggers. This one, nice and crisp and a great reset, but it breaks at about 6.5 pounds instead of 2.5. And that is a big difference. The heavier your trigger is, the more likelihood that you might pull your shot pulling through that trigger pull. And so there is something to be said for a really nice, light trigger. You can shoot it faster and you can shoot it more accurately. But again, we'll get to that later in the video. This one also has a threaded barrel, which my Springfield does not. So you could literally suppress this one without having to do anything to it. Whereas with this, I'd have to get a threaded barrel if I wanted to suppress it. And 1911s aren't like Glocks. You can't just drop parts in. I'd have to get the barrel actually fit to the gun. It would be an expensive and time-consuming process, whereas this one is just ready for that out of the box. Now this one has the fiber optic front sight as well, with a 2-dot rear. They both have ambidextrous safeties. I actually like the safeties on the Rock Island better. They're just a little bit, I don't know, a little bit better, I think. I don't know. They're both pretty good. But other than that, you know, front and rear slide serrations. Now this one, again, because it's in 10mm, which is a more powerful round, it has a much stronger recoil spring in it than the 8-pound spring that I have in my Prodigy. It just doesn't feel quite as smooth and easy to rack. I can air rack this Prodigy. There's no way I'm air rocking this TAC Ultra. You know, I do really love having an optic on my Prodigy, but now we're back to the best millimeter. So how do they shoot? Well, they both shoot really well. They're both 1911s. 1911s in general just shoot great. 1911 is an easy gun to shoot well. This one's chambered in a bigger, more powerful round, so naturally it's going to have more recoil, although it's a big, heavy gun with a big, easy to hold on to grip, so it's pretty easy to control the recoil on it for follow-up shots. Now, because of the heavier trigger, it is not as easy to shoot as fast and accurate as the Springfield Prodigy is, but for a 10mm, this shoots very well, pretty easy to control, and you do have that knockdown power. In fact, I shot off the carriage bolt on one of my steel targets and broke the target while we were out at the range today. I've never done that with my 9mm. I've done it with an AK before, but this is the first time a pistol did it. So there is something to be said for knockdown power. And 16+1 rounds of 10mm, that's a lot of firepower in your hand. 20+1 of 9mm, well, it's like 6 to 1, half dozen to another. Which do you prefer? Would you rather have the bigger capacity, the easier gun to shoot fast and accurate, or just more power in your hand? You know, this one will make bigger holes in something than this one will. You know, 16 rounds plus 1 of 10mm is pretty awesome, but it's hard to argue with 20-round magazines. So while the Rock Island shoots very well for a 10mm, I gotta say, this gun is easier to shoot well. Like, a lot easier. 9mm in a 1911 platform, I've said it many times, it is just a joy to shoot. It's really, really easy to shoot well. You can shoot this thing extremely fast and keep it on target. The recoil is negligible. Plus, with the red dot, you can see when you're on target faster, easier as well. Because the recoil is so low, I never lose sight of my dot in that window. It just basically stays on target. It just settles right back to where I want it to be after every trigger pull. And the trigger pulls are so light and fast and smooth that I never seem to pull my shots off target. Now, it's not 100% fair because I have had work done to this. And so it has a better trigger in it than it does from the factory. But from the factory, it does come cut for an optic, and that's a big deal to me. I also kind of like the 4 1/4 inch size, honestly. Now, I love a government 1911. Absolutely. But this thing just kind of feels perfect to me. And so, as much as I think that this gun is really cool, and I really do, and I want to thank Ryan for loaning it to me to do last week's video and this week's video. At the same time, I'm very glad that this is the gun that I own. This gun just makes you feel confident in your shooting abilities. It makes me feel like a better shooter than I really am. And that's kind of the great thing about a 2011. And while Staccato owns the trademark to the term 2011, this one is more closer to that style of pistol. This really is a double stack 1911. You have a slide and barrel and a frame. It's a 2-piece system, whereas the 2011 design is a 3-piece system, slide and barrel, frame, and then a polymer grip module. And so it is more modular for sure. You can change out grip modules. You can add lights and optics very easily. This one you could add lights, but not optics. And I just kind of love just that smooth feeling, and you can only get that with a 9mm because you can't have that light of a recoil spring in a 45 or a 10mm. 9mm, 45 ACP, 10mm auto, 1911s are just fun to shoot. While the 10mm has my stopping power, I could definitely shoot the Prodigy faster and more accurate. Rock Island Armory, 10mm. I would love to know what you guys think down in the comments. Are you a believer in the 2011 platform, 9mm double stack 1911, or would you go for the 10mm, the powerhouse, the knockdown power? Because 16+1 of 10mm, that is a lot to contend with. You know, people always talk about 9 versus 45, but 10mm is known as best millimeter for a reason. I think it kind of makes 45 almost obsolete. And I'm saying that as a 1911 lover. So 10mm is just, it's a very cool round, and a double stack 1911 that shoots that is a very cool gun. Now the only other issue, this one is more reliable. I did have a number of failure to feeds with this, and this has been reliable as hell through almost 2,000 rounds so far. Now, at the same time, I own this gun and I know how it's maintained and lubricated. I borrowed this gun and I have no idea how much lubrication was on it. Maybe that's part of the issue. The other part might have also been the fact that 10mm is a flat-nosed round, unless you're shooting hollow points. And I just think it's easier for a flat nose to get hung up on the feeder amp than the round nose of a full metal jacket 9mm. So let me know down in the comments which one you would choose, and I'll answer you. I answer every comment. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.